How can excessive flattery distort decision making, leading managers to make choices based on ego rather than actual merit? In what ways does flattery undermine trust and authenticity within teams? Can the habit of flattery result in employees feeling pressured to perform for validation rather than genuine actual achievement? And this can lead to burnout or a lack of innovation.
Voices of Victory Podcast Show. Voices of Victory Podcast Show.
It is now time for the Voices of Victory Podcast Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
So, welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast. My name is Mario, and I'm here to talk to you today about our wonderful episode, The Hidden Dangers of Flattery in Leadership. And if you're a leader, you should probably open up both ears and close one mouth and start to really listen. And keep in mind that I don't stand on a soapbox and say that I'm without mistake, because I'm a human being as well. That being said, I'm always learning, I'm always adjusting, I'm always pivoting, and if I could save someone else the heartache, and guess what? I will. That being said, let's talk about this. So welcome if you've never been on the show, where we talk about all things vision, leadership, self-esteem, and of course, workplace fun. This is the podcast that explores the timeless wisdom of the past, but also how it applies to the present today in today's world. And it's all about helping leaders rise above the noise and unlock their own potential. So in today's episode, we're going to dive into the ancient lesson from the great Chanakya. I talk about him a lot on this podcast. He's a strategist, a philosopher, and of course, he was a political advisor. But you know what he did? He warned against the dangers of flattery. And we're going to look at this ancient wisdom and just understand that it's relevant. It's relevant today, because there's all these emotional traps, and we have to avoid some of these traps, the traps of praise, because quite honestly, you need to safeguard your leadership integrity. So the ancient wisdom of Chanakya is valuable. In his teaching from the Artha Shastra, you could consider the word Artha is connected to sustenance or wealth, and Shastra is connected to that wisdom as well, or the teachings or writings. So if we take a good hard look, Chanakya warned rulers to be cautious of flattery and always seek the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it might actually be. And there's a particular story where during the reign of King Chandragupta Maurya, Chanakya noticed how the courtiers would use flattery to manipulate the king, and they would do that quite often. And these courtiers, driven by personal gain, would praise the king's decisions. And they would exaggerate his successes and downplay his mistakes. So to teach the king a valuable lesson, Chanakya was like, all right, listen up, king. I need you to observe the behavior of those who seek to gain your favor through empty praise. And over time, the king began to notice a pattern. Those who flattered him the most were the ones who would later seek to undermine his rule, try to betray him, and try to take the kingdom out from under him. And this became a pattern of truth and discovery. So Chanakya's lesson was pretty clear. Flattery is a tool used by manipulators to distort the leader's judgment. It's all about clouding the perception of the king, clouding his reality, and of course, ultimately compromise their leadership. So we see this in modern day. We see this in social media, where people will like and flatter you with all kinds of comments and be quick to figure out how you do your thing, how you run your channel, and of course, stab you in the back at first moment's notice. and run off with everything they know and understand. You could also see this, by the way. You could also see this, and I want you to pay close attention to what I'm about to say. There's a lot of other influencers and podcasts out there, the podcasters and influencers out there, who will follow around successful people in like New York City. They'll follow them on the street. They'll see the car that they drive. They'll see like all the success and the wealth they have, and they'll trail after this person. And be like, yeah, so tell me, what do you do? What do you do for a living, right? And what they're doing is really trying to flatter that wealthy person in order to get all of their secrets, to get all of their insight, like how they became successful. They want to extract their story, extract their narrative, extract their mindset. That's what they want to do. That's what they're out to do. They're not out there to just be kind and say, hey, listen, I really like your car. Have a great day. Otherwise they would have moved on instead of constantly pestered that wealthy person on the street and say, oh, I want to know everything. I want to sit there. I want to pick your brain. Will you have lunch with me? Let me pay you $1,000 so I can pick your brain for an hour, right? Come on. Are we kidding ourselves in 2025 that there isn't some subterfuge going on, or perhaps any possibility of not really being genuine, getting to know the person in a genuine way, but having what we call secondary gain? Yeah, look up secondary gain. Understand something, right? That there's some kind of secondary gain. Let me be kind to you. Let me get all your wealth, all your knowledge, everything you got, and let me get all that. But you know what? These people, they're very disingenuous. They really are. What they're really trying to do is just take all of that wisdom and information and expose it to the rest of the world. That's pretty much what they're trying to do. And usually they're trying to expose it for themselves, but they're also trying to expose it for everybody else, right? And it's like, leave the poor guy alone. Allow that person to just live their life. It's really quite simple. You don't have to be a paparazzi, like a podcast paparazzi, and try to dig deep and rip someone's life into pieces. Come on. The point here is not paranoia. Let's understand that. This is not about being paranoid. The point is the mirror recognition of flattery as a weapon is used in social media. It's used in the world. It's used in social media. And flattery is manipulation disguised as compliments or praise with some kind of directive or objective in mind. But much like the lessons of Chanakya, what he imparted was we can learn to discern these behaviors by understanding a few psychological cues. First of all, excessive praise with zero substance. When someone is constantly showering you with compliments, but their words feel shallow and hollow, lacking any real engagement with your content, it's a sign of manipulation. And they're not genuinely interested in your work. They're just trying to flatter you to get something. It's all about personal gain. And that's why I said these people that track down all these wealthy people in order to expose their story and expose their background, it's nothing more than just flattery for personal gain and to garner attention so they get likes. So that's what it is. It's unsolicited praise. If the praise seems excessive, and they've never engaged with your content before, guess what? It's a tactic. It's a tactic to get something in return. And they might be hoping that you follow them back, hoping that you share their content or elevate their profile in some way. That's another thing too, lack of constructive feedback. If they're all compliment and no feedback, we have to watch out. There's a lot of people that seek validation, and you can fall into the positive feedback and not the constructive feedback. But the flatterers, they avoid offering any type of genuine, functional, constructive criticism or any type of deep engagement. They only focus on your strengths. They don't question or challenge you. And they sit there and want to get inside your head. They want to get inside your life. And this keeps you in a bubble detached from any real growth or insight. And that's why it's important for you to recognize flattery, because it is a pattern of engagement. That's what we need to understand, is that if you notice if this person is consistently only praising only praising you when they need something or they want something. They have a secondary gain involved. There's something for them to get out of it. What's in it for me? If they only show up to comment when you post something, but then disappear otherwise, you could consider that a red flag. Because true engagement should be consistent and based on shared interests and meaningful connections, not just a one-way transaction. So the key insight here is that manipulation on social media isn't always so overt. It's subtle, hiding behind flattering words, hiding behind impression management. You could see my episode on that. They want to create an illusion of support and be mindful of the intent behind the praise, not just for the words. That's why I said the people who walk up to these wealthy people trying to pick their brain and all that, that's all intent. You got to watch out for their intent. Flattery is easy to spot when you understand that it comes without any real investment. And its goal is rarely genuine. It's all about personal gain. It's not about meaningful connection. They have no desire. They'll just flatter you all day so you give them the answers and spill out your entire life on camera. Have some personal privacy for yourself. If you're someone who is that person that has a decent job, I don't know, maybe you're a person who owns a few laundromats or something, and you're doing quite well for yourself. You're making some money. You're doing your stuff. You don't have to share anything you know with other people that are on the street. You don't have to share crap. It's not their right to know. You have the right to privacy. You have the right to just go about your day and go about your business. You don't have to engage. You don't choose to not engage with these people because they have secondary gain. There's something to gain out of it. All right. And if you don't understand secondary gain, think of it this way. If I'm smoking because my partner values smoking, then there's a gain to stay a smoker because I'm making my partner happy, when in actuality, quitting smoking is going to be beneficial for me. But since smoking is a part of your partner's identity, then you will continue to stay a smoker in order to please them and make them happy. That is secondary gain. So you can see the people that need these wealthy people to speak are the ones that are trying to fill the airwaves with new content and new information for the rest of the world. So it's not about that person's gain. It's about their own personal gain. So they're going to use flattery as a transaction. It's transactional. True support is relational. So you have to recognize the difference between a false friend and someone that's just navigating social media, because we need clarity and we need integrity. There's a modern day example of this. Let's talk about how this can migrate over to the office, right? The corporate world is important. So we're going to bring this into the modern day context, right? Imagine a CEO or a leader or someone in management of a fast growing company. And their vision has catapulted the company into new directions, new markets. And they're receiving praise from every single corner. Every single corner. The employees, the board members, the competitors, especially your competitors. Competitors love to say, I need to get inside his head. I need to figure out what he's thinking and what he's doing. That's what it is. What he thinks and what he's doing. So the CEO begins to feel kind of like this invincible feeling, or this manager feels invincible. They're encouraged by the constant validation. But what happens next? The constant flattery creates an echo chamber. It's where that leader becomes detached from the reality of their actual decisions. So they start making riskier moves. They start ignoring the advice of those people who once questioned them in the name of keeping harmony. Right? So yeah, the real issues here is the cracks in the strategy. They go unnoticed because everyone around them is too busy showering them with praise. So what happens is they may be afraid to speak the truth. It doesn't take long before things begin to unravel. And you know what? A competitor seizes the opportunity to gain market share. That's what they do. It's not about paranoia. Again, it's just more about strategy. Keep that in mind. It's so crucial. But the leader who is blinded by the flattering voices around them, they fail to see the growing signs of complacency, the lack of innovation that's in front of them, and the morale issues, the issues with morale within their own organization. So let's take a good hard look at some of these things. And I want to put them into better context because I know I'm going to get a lot of feedback from a lot of people that are constantly interviewing all of these successful on the street people. I call it the on the street interviewer for success related people. It's what I call the charm offensive. That's what I call it, the charm offensive. Okay. It's literally, how can we understand charm offensive? It's like it's masking excessive praise and it's used subtly to manipulate somebody into complying with a hidden agenda. So these people, they have a hidden agenda and they want to walk up to people and say, "Oh, let me ask him all the questions so I can find out what makes him successful because I'm going to make him feel so good on camera that he's just going to spill everything." And that's what's happening is a manipulation. There's the hidden agendas and there's the charm offensive right there. Right? Now, in what ways does this like obsequious behavior is a good way of putting it? It can exploit the goodwill of people. That's the thing. That's what I want to bring to the forefront is it's exploiting the goodwill of that successful person or that hardworking person. And you got to remember, not everybody is like a total CEO. There's successful people that just run, small businesses. But the fact is it makes it difficult to detect their cloaked agenda. Some of these people have a cloaked agenda that they might be actually pushing. That's the thing. And when people run up to you with like their camera just automatically recording you and they don't know you from a can of paint, you have to consider it. Like you have to consider the hidden agenda. It doesn't mean it's always negative, obviously. It could be someone just having a nice day in the street and they love the shirt you're wearing, that sort of thing. But you really have to understand that there are people that will try to exploit goodwill of others with a cloaked agenda. And people use flattery as a form of secondary gain. What it does is you're deploying that in order to achieve some kind of manipulation or some kind of control over the situation. I like to always say, and I've learned this, is everything we do is consistent with our highest values. And on this show, I value leadership, I value vision, I value all things self-esteem related. That being said, everything I do on this show is educational towards those things that are my highest value. Okay? And that's what it's all about. Now, there's some wisdom here that we need to understand is that there's some negative wisdom, actually. It's that flattery distorts your perception of reality. Okay, the more you are praised without honest feedback, the more you'll become susceptible to making decisions based on ego rather than insight. If you're a leader, please stop surrounding yourself with people that praise you all the time. I know it feels good at the end of the day, but you're losing out on all that constructive feedback. So the consequences of that can literally be disastrous. It's not just for the leader, but for everyone you lead. So just as Chanakya advised Chandragupta to be wary of sycophants, modern leaders must also cultivate environments where truth is valued above praise. A true leader surrounds themselves with individuals who are willing to offer constructive criticism. Those who challenge their ideas is also important. It's not just for the sake of conflict, but for the sake of growth. So flattery feeds the ego. And these people out there, they know what they're doing when they do the man on the street interview with some successful person. Flattery feeds the ego and get them to chatterbox on camera. But you know what? It can never nourish the intellect or the true potential of a leader. And if you're out there, be wary of that. The leadership takeaway. is how can leaders avoid this trap of flattery? Well, here's a few hard, actionable steps. Seek truth, not praise. Okay? Seek truth. Surround yourself with people who respect you enough to speak the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. And create a feedback culture. If you're in the workplace, create a culture of feedback. Foster that environment where feedback, both positive and negative and neutral, is also welcomed and valued. Don't be afraid to encourage dissent, because sometimes the truth lies in disagreement. It's deep buried within disagreement. Stay humble. Be humble. Recognize the flattery. Recognize the flattery, because it often is just a reflection of the speaker's needs, their wants, what they want, rather than your own accomplishments. And keep your ego in check and stay grounded in your mission. Go about your day. You have the right to go about your day. So value strategic silence. That you don't have to answer. I don't choose to engage in such a conversation. Have a great day, right? Not every praise needs a response. Take time to reflect on your decisions, especially when surrounded by praise. You have to be able to discern what truly aligns with your goals. The whole point of what Chanakya was trying to say was it's the wisdom about the dangers of flattery. It's as relevant today more than it ever was. Like ancient times was small potatoes. We're dealing in a world of social media and people that have this hidden agenda. And that's the important thing, is the modern world is filled now with voices that seek to flatter. But as leaders, we have to remain vigilant. Seek wisdom and truth over validation. And if you listen to those people who challenge us, who question our own biases, and avoid comforting, then you know what? We can create a leadership that's authentic and absolutely grounded. And of course, victorious. So thank you for tuning in to Voices of Victory, and I hope this episode has given you the value and insights to the dangers of flattery. And I'm just going to speak on one more concept. So in today's world of influencer culture, all right, we notice these individuals. They chase down the successful people on the streets. They're eagerly attempting to uncover, quote unquote, the secret sauce to their success for that person. And while this might seem like an innocent quest for inspiration or an innocent quest for insight, it's important. It's important to understand that there's often something deeper, more beneath the surface, below the surface. And this is an example of a hidden agenda at best. The influencers may appear genuinely harmless or interested in extracting valuable mindsets or life lessons, but you know what? They are primarily motivated by self-interest. They're gathering content that will actually boost their own profile, rather than to have that concept of allowing people the space to breathe. So the successful individual is reduced to a tool for content. Okay, their words are dissected and repurposed to serve the influencer's own brand, rather than the success story being presented authentically. And you know what? From a psychological perspective, it says a whole lot. Here's what it actually says, to be honest. This absolute behavior can be seen as a form of excessive flattery and manipulation. The flattery, while seemingly complimentary, it seems complimentary, it's often strategic. And I'm not going to say everyone. We can't generalize and say all people who do this, because not everybody is going to do the same thing. But by praising the success of these individuals and making them feel like their insights are sought after, the influencer creates an illusion of mutual respect and admiration. That's the psychology here. However, the true motive is to gain access to their knowledge for personal gain. So this dynamic, it creates an uncomfortable power balance, where the successful person is not simply contributing to a conversation. They're not doing that, but they're being leveraged as a stepping stone for the influencer's own advancement. And you know what? The flattering questions, they're often framed to make the individual feel as though their expertise is the key to unlocking success. But it's really just a tactical move to flatter them and extract something valuable without offering much in return. Maybe making them feel good. Oh, guess what? You're an old guy that makes a lot of money. You don't have social media. I'll put you on there and make you feel good. It's important to note that not all instances of this type of interaction are inherently malicious, all right, or manipulative. Not all of them are. There are cases where successful people willingly share their knowledge and experiences, and the conversation can actually be beneficial for both parties. But in the instances where empty flattery and over complimenting are used excessively, that's what we're trying to discern and distinguish here. It's clear that the intention is not about genuine learning whatsoever, but about exploiting somebody's credibility for their own personal gain on their channel. So we got to recognize when the line is actually crossed. And it is a gray area that goes unnoticed. The fine line between admiration and manipulation. And you got to be aware of these dynamics because they're going to help you navigate both sides of this interaction, ensuring that we approach success with integrity and respect and give people the damn room to breathe rather than just seeking to manipulate them and pull crap out of the conversation for your own agenda. And with that, we come to the end of today's episode. Please remember that success is a journey, and some people like their fucking quiet. They just want to move on with their damn life and be left the hell alone. There's nothing wrong with that. And you know what? It should be about genuine learning, not manipulation through flattery. So thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode. Please understand I'm not heaping scorn on all those influencers out there. Not all, we can't say all, but we know that the ones that use excessive flattery are manipulative. Let's understand that. Take care.